Hello, today we're going to be making Chilli Marrakech. Now this is a new recipe for the food department and we'd really like to hear what you think of it, how tasty it is, and if you've got any recommendations for us to change it in the future. So we look at the method. Number 1 tells us to fry the onion and cumin seeds in the oil. So we're going to take our onion, we're going to cut off the tip like that, we're going to cut off the tail like that, and then I'm going to use my thumb just to peel off the outer layers of the onion. So that's the brown papery layer, and possibly the next layer down too if that's not very nice. So just keep peeling until you've got the whole of the onion skin removed. Remove all the bits from your board so they don't end up in your recipe. We're going to be using our bridge hold that's over the onion like that. We're going to take our knife and we're going to cut right through the middle of the onion and put the flat side of the onion on the board. And the recipe tells us to thinly slice the onion. So using our pincer grip to hold onto the top, I'm going to use our knife just to do some nice fine slices. So I'm sliding my fingers back on the top of the onion as I come across like that. Make sure you keep your fingers out of the way of the knife. When you get to the end, you'll probably need to do a little bridge hold over the onion and just cut that last little bit like that. And do the same with the other half of the onion. So my onion's thinly sliced. I'm going to put about half a tablespoon of oil in my pan. I'm going to switch the heat up to high. And then I'm going to add my sliced onion into my pan like that. I'm going to get my cumin seeds, half a teaspoon of cumin seeds in with the onion. And I'm going to leave those to fry whilst I prepare the rest of my ingredients. So once they start sizzling, we'll turn the heat down. So a quick recap on garlic. This is a bulb of garlic, and in here are the cloves of garlic, and we need 2 garlic cloves, so that's those 2 there. You can hear that the onions are really sizzling now, so I'm going to turn it down to a medium heat. I don't want my onions to burn, just want them to gently caramelise, and I'm going to prepare my garlic. So to prepare the garlic, I'm going to cut off the top and the tip. I'm going to hold the knife down as I do that, and then if you're lucky, the skin comes away like that. Cut the last bit off. Do the same with this piece, so hold it down, cut the bottom off, and then just finish off. This actually had 2 little cloves of garlic in, but we'll keep them all. I think that would be the right amount. The recipe says to finely chop your garlic, so you can either do that with the knife and come across like this, finely chop it, and then use your knife to chop those slices, or if you want to, you can use a garlic crusher. So you put the garlic into the crusher like that, squeeze the handles together, and the garlic comes out like that. Scrape it with your knife, open it out, give it a little scrape around in there, close it again, give it another squeeze, and then you can use all the bits inside as well. Scrape them out, they'll all be fine in your chilli. So the next ingredient is the ginger, and the recipe says 1 tablespoon of finely chopped ginger. So I'm going to use a peeler. You mustn't eat the skin or the peel of the ginger, so peel that off. I'm not going to peel all the way up to the top because that gives me something to hold on to. I'm just going to take the end off there as well, that's a bit dry. So 1 tablespoon of finely chopped ginger. So I'm going to use our knife to cut some fine slices of ginger. Pop them together like that on top of each other, and then we can come back, remove that little bit there, come back and just chop it very finely. So I'm using my pincer grip here to hold on to the garlic, to the ginger. You might want to do one slice at a time. I've piled them all up. So you get little matchsticks of ginger like that. And then I can come across with my knife and chop them more finely. So my ginger and my garlic are now ready to add to my onion mix. So in goes my garlic, in goes my ginger. If you're watching very carefully, you'd see I put a little bit of garlic skin in there, so I'll take that out. And you also add your mince. Now I'm using corn mince, which doesn't actually have to cook like meat, beef or lamb or pork mince. So I'm going to pop that in, but it's already browned. If you're using a meat mix, then that will be pink when you put it in, and as you cook it, it will turn brown. So the next stage of the recipe is to keep cooking until your meat has turned brown. It's lost its pink colour. I'm just going to leave mine gently cooking there while I move on to the next stage of the recipe. Now I've got two more fresh ingredients that I need to prepare. One of those is a red pepper. So I'm going to cut it in half using my bridge hold again, knife through the middle of the bridge, rock the knife backwards and forwards until it opens the pepper like that. And then you can either pull the core of the pepper out with your hands, get all the white out as well and that green tip, or if you'd rather you can use a knife, cut down to the chopping board, never into your hand. So you cut down the side, work into a V shape like that, and that removes the core as well. And then the recipe tells us to cut it into large chunks. So bridge hold again, probably into 1, 2, and then I've moved to a claw grip, a pincer grip to hold on the pepper there. 4 slices that way, turn it round. If you can hold it together, you can come back across this way. So I think they're large chunks. So we do that again. 1, 2, 3, and then if it's easier for you, cut across each piece individually like that. So that's the red pepper, and the only other fresh ingredient we need to prepare is our coriander. So it says most chopped and a few leaves left whole to serve. So depending on the size of your bunch of coriander, you might put it all in. I've got way too much here, but I find it's easiest to scrunch your bunch of coriander up like that and just cut across it with your knife, keeping your fingers well out of the way. My pincer grip's at the top here until I think I've got enough to go in my chilli, and then later on I can use some of the whole leaves just to garnish my finished dish. So by now, if you're using meat, the meat should have gone brown. So my corn was brown already, but you can see that the onions have taken on a different colour. They've gone slightly translucent, and that's ready to add the rest of our ingredients to. So number 3 just says stir in all the other ingredients. So we'll work down the list together. So I've got 1 can of chopped tomatoes, in like that. 1 teaspoon of paprika. I'm using my teaspoon measure. Pop that in there. 1 teaspoon of ground cinnamon, like that. 1½ tablespoons of ground coriander. Now my tablespoon measure won't fit into my jar, but I know that 3 teaspoons is 1 tablespoon. So if I put in 3 teaspoons, that's 1 tablespoon. And then I want another ½ tablespoon, which is going to be 1½ teaspoons of ground coriander. 1 tablespoon of harissa paste. Now again, my tablespoon measure won't fit into the neck of that jar, so I'm going to use a dessert spoon this time and just put 1 nice heaped dessert spoon of harissa in there. That should be enough. 1 red pepper, so we've already chopped that up. So let's pop that in there. 1 can of chickpeas, drained. So here's my can of chickpeas. You can see that it comes in a liquid, so I'm just going to go and drain that using a sieve. So So I've drained my chickpeas over the sink, so the water's gone down the sink, and I'm going to tip my chickpeas in, my chopped coriander, like that. Remember, I chopped it straight from the bunch of coriander in the packet, and 125 mils of stock. Now, because I'm using corn mince, I'm going to use a vegetable stock cube. But if you're using meat, then you can use the right kind of stock cube for that. So I'm going to just move that aside a minute so that you can see. I'm going to put my stock cube in my jug, and I'm going to pour in 125 mils of boiling water straight from my kettle. So I'm setting my scales. Mine has got millilitres on, but if you don't have millilitres on your scale, you can set it to grams and it will weigh the same. So 125 grams of boiling water. I'm going to give it a little stir, so I can use the spoon that I used to measure the harissa, just to help the stock cube to dissolve, like that. Pour that in. You see the stock cube hasn't dissolved completely, but as the chilli cooks down, that will soon dissolve. Now, because I'm using corn mince, my mix actually looks quite dry now, so I'm going to add some more water. If you're using meat, the fat that's come out of the meat will help to moisten your dish anyway, and corn mince does tend to absorb water, so we are going to put a bit more in. So I'm going to rinse out my can that I used earlier, pop some just normal tap water in, give it a swirl round, add it to my dish. So while it's cooking, I'll keep an eye on it, and if I think it's getting a bit dry, I'll add a little bit more water. Now you can hear that my pan has stopped sizzling where I've put so many cold ingredients in. So I'm going to turn it right back up to full. I'm going to bring it to the boil, so I'll be able to see some bubbles on the surface. Reduce the heat to a simmer, so I can only see a few bubbles on the surface. And then I'm going to cook it for 20 minutes and just stir it occasionally. So you can hear the timer going off. So my chilli's had 20 minutes to cook now. It looks perfect to me. There's still a little bit of liquid in the pan, so it's not going to be too dry. I'm really looking forward to eating that with some rice, or you could have it on a jacket potato or over some pasta. And don't forget, when you serve it, you're just going to pull off some leaves of coriander. So you could either put them in the pan if you're going to serve it from the pan on the table, or if you're going to serve it in plates, just put a few leaves of coriander on each portion. I hope you enjoy this recipe, and as I said, it's a new one for us, so if you've got any thoughts on it, how we can improve it, please do let us know.